Friday edition, WagerTalk.com and WagerTalk TV. I'm your host, Steve Merrill, and I'm joined by my usual suspects and cohorts in NBA handicapping, Teddy Covers, Rob Vino, Tony Finn, and Ski Profit. You can find all of us at WagerTalk.com. You can also find Teddy and some other cappers at SportsMemo.com as well. You know, guys, we don't have a weekend show, so we won't have a chance to handicap Game 3 Celtics Heat. So I think what we'll do is we'll recap last night's game, take an advanced look at Game 3, and then, of course, viewers are going to dig in deep into game of the Western Conference Finals afterwards here on the show on Friday. By the way, there's no games Monday, but I'm going to try to – we'll see, 50-50. I'm going to see if we can do a show to maybe recap the weekend games. We'll see what the studio has to say. Otherwise, we'll be back on Tuesday when the next games resume. But, Teddy, let me start with you. I guess we were all kind of right. You were right. I mean, I took a shot with the Celtics, and I was not feeling good, Teddy, when they were up by 17. And deja vu all over again, right, as Yogi Berra said.
Did you grab any Miami in game? I took some Miami in game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I did. And I was frustrated. You know, it's one of those deals where when the Heat were down, I pay a lot of attention to body language when I'm watching games. And when the Heat were down, their body language, when the Celtics went on that run in the first half, Miami's body language was right. You know, there was no panic. There was no running around with like a chicken with their head cut off. They're like, okay, you know, you could see it. And they missed a lot of shots in the first half they were going to hit. When all said and done, I understand Boston turned the ball over 20 times. I understand they didn't hit three-pointers. The Celtics shot 50% from the floor last night and didn't win. That's not a good sign moving forward.
Yeah, I was going to say exactly right, Ted. I was going to say, Rob, how do you look at this? I mean, a team shoots 50% and loses, not a good sign. Yet, once again, the three-point disparity, we talked about that three-point difference was kind of the key in game 1 and 2. But as Ski pointed out yesterday, Miami, one of the best three-point shooting teams in the league. They had 38% of the season, so that's not a fluke. However, Boston was one of the better three-point defenses. They were about 33.5% allowed, about 2% better than their opponents. So, Rob, what was your takeaways from game 2 and a kind of big picture, I guess, going forward?
Yeah, they just have multiple guys that can do it, right, Steve? I mean, I think Teddy reiterated the point yesterday that if Tyler Hero doesn't do it again, then Duncan Robinson will. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, Hero had plenty of opportunities, 8 3-pointers, only made 1, so he was cold. But Robinson was the guy that's hot. So it's just so many guys to defend on this team when you include Jay Crowder, when you include Dragic. And those guys, it makes it hard. It really does on the defense. And Miami, once again, you know, when we were going through some stuff yesterday, I had said 83% of the time in the playoffs, Miami gets 106 or better. Last night they got 106. 80% of the time, Boston gets 102 or better, which would make the total tough to play. Last night they got 101, and the game stays under by 1.5 points. So the odds makers have this number totals-wise, in a real good place. You're going to have to play that thing situationally, game by game, and not expect to beat it by a bunch, but expect to either get barely over the bar or stay under the bar barely. That's what happened last night. I think Miami's defense, one more time. And real quick, Steve, aside from the three-pointers, Miami just has more ability to stay out of long scoring droughts than Boston does. It proved again last night when Miami comes up with that 37-17 third quarter. Their offense kicked into gear and Boston's went right in the tank. So it's a slight difference, but it's been the difference in these 2 games so far. And again, we'll wait and see if Gordon Hayward comes back so they can lengthen that bench out for Boston. But right now, it's not been, the games have been very, very close, but it's not been good for Boston. They're just slightly on the short end.
Yeah, Tony, as I said, having the Celtics up by 17, I wasn't feeling safe. I know you're a big in-game guy. Did you take any in-game shots, Tony, yesterday in game 2?
I didn't, because I released, after we talked on the show yesterday and speaking to all of you, it's one of those deals where I just didn't feel very comfortable with Miami, but I played them. And when they were down by 17, I said, I told you I wasn't comfortable with this team play. And it's funny how Bam and Jimmy Butler can have 10 points on 12 shots in the first half, and Boston can have 60 points. Teddy said it, and it's have 60 points, lead by 13, and look like a completely different entity in the second half.
Yeah, Ski, what was your takeaways there on game 2 last night, and kind of your big picture thoughts moving forward?
My takeaway was too much, my takeaway is the Heat play good as a unit. Like, they're a complete team. I still think the Celtics have really good players, but they tend to get into iso ball, and that's where they're going to struggle. Where you talk about the Heat can score more consistently than the Celtics, it's because they're doing it as a unit, and I just think that's why they're the better team.
And I mean, since we have a weekend show, guys, I thought what we do is we'll take a little bit of an advanced look here at Game 3 for the weekend before we move on to Friday night's game. And Teddy, I'll throw it to you first. Game is scheduled here for tomorrow on Saturday. It'll be an 8:30 p.m. Eastern Saturday night start. Celtics now a 3-point favorite, 206.5, Teddy. So we see the total now about 2 points lower. We see the Celtics now a 3-point favorite. It was 1.5 in Game 1, around 2.5 last night. Now it's -3, Teddy. Obviously, the thought here is that they'll bounce back, but as we said yesterday, that's not necessarily a certainty here with the Celtics.
For Boston to quote-unquote bounce back, they have to solve a lot of riddles that they haven't been able to solve so far in this series. And I understand. Both games have been very close final scores, okay? But both crunch times have been one-sided. Miami has been able to execute their game plan down the stretch, and Boston hasn't. Hakeem was just talking about the iso ball. You're going to try to beat Miami playing iso ball, you're going to lose. And that's what's happened to the Celtics Game 1 and Game 2. They went out, and Miami threw the zone out there last night. Yeah. And Boston looked like they'd never seen a zone in their life. Yeah. It's not Brad Stevens, okay? It is. So it's supposed to be the bounce-back spot for the Celtics. And again, sometimes you get frustrated and you don't want to let one loss turn into 2, into 3. After I bet on the Celtics prior to the series, and I bet the Celtics Game 1, and after Game 1, I'm like, Boston's not winning this series, and I'm in trouble. Rather than flip and then you're on the wrong side, I didn't do anything for Game 2. I just left it alone. But I still think that Boston's the wrong side of this series, and Boston is not the team I want to back, even though I've got I was praying they could win that Game 1 so I could get off the series price. That's not obviously happening now. I don't trust the Celtics to lay a price with them, and I'm not convinced that Miami deserves to be a dog like this. So I'm not going to be on Boston. I can tell you that they're not the better of these two teams. And Hakeem made another great point. One team is the individuals for Boston, Matt, are just fine. You say, all right, well, they got Tatum, they got Brown, they got Smart, they got Kemba. Yeah. But as a team, Miami's clearly, and I don't know, again, the games are close, but to me, Miami's clearly been the better team. That was the case in Game 1, and that was the case last night. The ball movement, the defensive intensity, the rotations, and the chemistry. Let's not forget what happened in the locker room for the Celtics after the game. You don't want to make too much of it. But on the other hand, when you see a veteran beat writer saying, I've heard a lot of locker room kerfuffles, and that was about as bad as anything I've heard. I'm not laying points with the Celtics. You guys?
No.
Yeah, Rob, I'll throw it to you. I mean, it's quite an adjustment here in the total. As you've referenced, it's been pretty much spot on. It was as high as 211 in Game 1 at one point, around 209.5, 208, and now it's 206.5. So, Rob, your thoughts on that going forward here, the adjustment there, and then as I told Teddy, 1.5, 2.5, now 3. Celtics the biggest favorite they've been in the series. Obviously, looking for the bounce back, but I guess also you could say, could there be a slight letdown by the Heat? We haven't seen that though so far in the playoffs. They swept Indiana. They took care of business against Milwaukee as well. So, Rob Vino, not too many letdown spots so far for Miami.
No, let me start with your point about the total, Steve, because I can understand a slight adjustment if the odds makers want to push it down a little bit, but why push it to 206.5 when both games in regulation have gone over 206.5? I mean, if they want to make it 207, 207.5, I can understand it, but 206.5, it makes totals guys like myself open their eyes twice because these games look like they're going to play out fairly consistently. I'm going to go back to what Ski said and what Teddy just repeated that Ski said, because it was said to a group of reporters last night by Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler said Boston has better players, but we have a better team. His exact words. I've never seen Jimmy Butler this happy playing with a group of guys in his entire career. It seems like he's never happy with the group of guys that are around him because they don't have the same mentality that he does. You know, Karl Anthony Towns, and you get to Philadelphia, and you get the two immature kids, Embiid and Simmons, and he wants to play with guys that between the ears are ready to go when you have to go. And we've driven it home quite a bit on this show. Jay Crowder, Iguodala, Dragic, these guys, crunch time doesn't faze them. Teddy made a great point. Again, these games are extremely close. You could separate them with a piece of copy paper. But the bottom line is when push comes to shove, Miami makes the play and Boston doesn't. So, I think that's very, very true. Again, I would like to see Boston with the ability to put Gordon Hayward on the floor for 14, 15 minutes off the bench and just see if lengthening that bench out a little bit with another premier shooter and scorer would help them late in games. But until that happens, I'm not going to be on Boston. I mean, coming into the series, I thought Miami had a great chance to beat this team, and right now up 2-0, they have that chance. But I would particularly have interest in that total, Steve, since it's been pushed down to a point where, at least in my mind, these games are going to be played the same way. It's to a point where I don't care if I win by a half a point or by 30 points. They don't pay me more at the window to win by 30 points. So 207 to me seems like a good place for a final score, and 206.5 would indicate taking it over.
Yeah, Tony Finn, what are your thoughts on the total adjustment and just Game 3 in general, moving forward on Saturday?
That the total is almost playing out, guys, much like the Toronto Boston total as well. It's got, it's not the same numbers, but they're similar in many ways, and that was the every single game, regardless of what the total came in at. Most of the time, guys, it came in way under, but there was a double overtime that it came in over. Really, the only one that, and that one wasn't clear of the total in regulation. So it keeps coming down. And I'm assuming if Boston can, and let's flash back to when Boston was leading Toronto by 2-0. And we all were saying a lot. We were basically saying the same kind of things, not exactly the same, but the same kind of attitude. And we were posturing Boston, much like we're posturing Miami right now. And in truth, you guys are right about a couple of things. The fact is that there was a shot last night. I don't who took it from the corner. Was it either Brown or
Jaylen Brown, right?
Yeah, Brown, and he hits that three. It's knotted up with seconds to go. Right, 2 games. They lose 2 games where we feel like they've been crushed, and they've lost 2 games by a total of 8 points. So that said, I'll say it like I said last time. That is, if Boston wins Game 3 Monday, we're going to be here, and we're going to have all of us are going to have a little bit different tune. Well, maybe I say it's just so much fun, isn't it? In truth, guys, this Brad Stevens didn't make. He made this his own. When he went small, it was too late. I mean, Miami almost got back into the game, and they were. Stevens was throwing the starters back in because this lead was just vanishing. It wasn't just vanishing. I mean, it was a whirlwind all of a sudden. While it was methodical, even for me, a guy who's watching and just sitting and casually watching and listening, it just seemed like seconds before they were down 17, and all of a sudden they were up 1. And this team, Miami, they like each other, guys. They like each other. And I don't mind that Smart. Listen, Smart's the bulldog. If there's going to be somebody challenge somebody in Boston, you better believe it's going to be Smart. And I would rather have a team throwing shit at each other, beating each other up because they're mad that they lost, rather than having kind of a quiet, one of those soft-spoken, well, we didn't play very well, and we'll get them for the Gipper next time. I want guys fighting, clawing, scratching, screaming, cussing, and selling parts of their body to get more points. That's what I want. That makes sense?
Yeah, and Ski, I mean, as Teddy mentioned earlier, it's a bad sign when you shoot 50% and lose. It's probably also a bad sign when you get to the free throw line 10 more times than your opponent. The Celtics had 10 more free throw attempts, also couldn't get the win. They also shot a higher percentage from three-point range, but they made 4 less. That was really the difference in the game once against Ski was the 3-point shooting. But as you mentioned yesterday, not a total fluke because Miami a very good 3-point shooting team.
Yeah, and Tony, I think, made a good point that Brad Stevens didn't really make the right adjustments until kind of the end of the game or until it was too late. And I mean, in my opinion, I've said it before the last game. There's nothing really wrong with the offense. They need to make some adjustments defensively if they're going to stay in this series because they have to stop the Heat from scoring. And I saw Draymond Green put out a tweet that they needed to go small and put Williams at the 5. Hey, that may be a way to go, but I think in this game, Brad Stevens has no choice but to make some kind of adjustment. And like you said, the Celtics have been pretty close. I like Miami to win this series, but Tony said we're going to be thinking different on Monday. I won't be thinking too different. I think Celtics can win this next game.
Yeah, there's no question they could definitely win it. I mean, they're up by double digits in the fourth quarter, up by 17 yesterday. You know, they could easily be up 2-0, should be up 2-0 most likely if they hold on to those leads. So this game is Saturday night, everyone. This is Saturday night, 8:30 Eastern on ESPN, Game 3 of the Eastern Conference Finals. We, of course, have Game 2 tonight, Game 1 tonight of the Western on Friday. We're going to get to that in just a moment. Just want to get some quick final thoughts on this game for Saturday since we don't have a weekend show. Any play-on-play against guys? Anything that's changed for any of you all since we talked about games 1 or 2? Teddy, I'll just start with you. Any big picture play-on-play against guys?
I'm trying to think here. I mean, look, Butler didn't have a big offensive game yesterday, though we did. I mean, the 2 steals down the stretch made all the difference. What do we see? We saw Hero go off in game 1. We saw Robinson go off in game 2. Olynyk maybe in game 3. You know, Iguodala and Nunn didn't get off the bench in the second half of that ball game. Worth noting that Spoelstra has shortened his bench. On the Boston side, Kemba Walker came out with fire last night and still didn't, when all said and done, Kemba Walker, if you're pointing towards GOATs in this series, he's, in my mind, a big reason why Boston's down 0-2. Maybe I look at Kemba under in game 3, but nothing strong.
Yeah, and Kemba, I believe, had 23 points. He, of course, had 19 in game 1. But was like a 1 for 9 from 3-point range, 6 for 20 overall. And he still had 19, was only a point away from the total. That's what we talked about, him not playing well yet. He's still going over the totals. What's tricky there? Rob, what are some big picture thoughts for you play on play against guys maybe in game 3?
Well, I'm just going to hit on a couple things real quick here, Steve. Just my opinion on some stuff that Ski brought up. And Robert Williams, I guess Draymond Green, Ski said, had that quote or tweet that Robert Williams should be in there at the 5. And we saw him play game 1 and go to the bench and not play at all in game 2 in favor of Enes Kanter. That was the first Enes Kanter sighting we've had in this particular series. So Brad Stevens.
Grant Williams, not Robert Williams.
Oh, Grant. Okay. Tennessee kid. Okay. Yeah, I mean, Kanter was a try by Stevens to make something happen. Didn't necessarily work. I would say that in game 3, Steve, a team that's down 0-2, your prevailing thought is that they're going to come out fired up and be better defensively. But I'm of the opinion that no matter what Boston does defensively, and I've seen enough of Miami throughout this, that they're not going to stop Miami from getting to 106. In my mind, we're not going to see a game where Stevens makes an adjustment and all of a sudden Miami scores 88 or 90 points. They have these moments where they catch fire inside that 48-minute game period, and somehow, some way, they find their way to 106 points. So for Boston, they're going to have to be better offensively, slightly, in my mind. And as far as the line goes on the game, I had this game 1 power rated Miami -1.5. They win the game. Power rating stayed the same. Miami 1.5 for game 2. They win the game. And now Boston's 3. So this line just keeps moving farther away from where I think these teams are personnel wise. Tony's right. Maybe we don't want to be a prisoner of the moment, but I just don't think that. And whatever Boston does, I don't think it's going to change the fact that Miami's going to find their way to their 105, 106 points. They're going to have to get above that to beat this team.
Yeah, and Tony, I believe you took the other side some Crowder props last night, right? And Ski, you had over 1.5, right? 3-pointers.
Yeah, I think we went 1-1. The points, Marcus Smart won by 2 points, and the 3-pointers,
Yeah,
Crowder
Crowder
won.
was 3 for 10, so he definitely won on that one. What was the other one? He had Marcus Smart.
Yep.
Yeah, and I
I
forgot
that
what
one. I got where's my bottle of mezcal?
You get half a bottle.
It's in the mail. It takes a few days to deliver. Remember, it tastes better when it comes through the postal service. As does everything in life.
If it comes from South Mexico, I'll personally drive over and give you a kiss. That's what I'll do.
What were your thoughts? What are your thoughts going forward on Game 3, Tony? Any play against guys?
Me?
That's
no,
If you guys said the under 20.5 before Rob Vino was giggling, you just missed out cashing.
You had to put these on. I hate covering up my pretty head. I apologize to the audience that I had to wear these and you had to see that. So,
Tony, do you hear more voices or less voices with them?
Oh, I don't have any of that stuff, but we got some mezcal coming. Now, as far as play-on-play, guys, this is one of those. To make it short, because there's a lot of things we can talk about. I'm sure we want to talk about Ski's team, and we probably want to talk about the dog that's barking in the background too, as well. But
dog wants to talk about.
I like him. He's barking, and that's really what Boston's going to have to do. They're going to have to reach down deep, and I'll go back to what I said a couple earlier in the week. Bam didn't do very much in the first half, but there's something about listen. We talked about how Tice had played pretty well. Tice they sat his ass down yesterday, and he never saw. Did he see the game again? I don't know if he did, but he was getting crushed inside. Everything he did was wrong, and that was another thing is that they really don't have an answer. If Bam wants to be defensive, if Bam wants to be offensive a little bit, every time he went to the rim yesterday, he was getting fouled and going. Every time he scored, he was going to the line for an extra shot. Everything Boston did was wrong. Everything in the zone, as Teddy mentioned, absolutely. They did. He's right. They did like they'd never seen a zone, and we know they have.
Yeah, and by the way, Kemba Walker took 6 more shots, guys, than anybody else in the Boston squad yesterday. Actually, 5 more than Brown, 6 more than Smart, and he took 7 more than Tatum. And then on the other side, Dragic had a big game with his 25 points. He took 19 shots, and Butler had only 11 field goal attempts, only 14 points, and they still win the game, as we talked about a few times, Ski, that Butler does a lot of other things and necessarily put the points up, and then mind he can still find a way to win.
Yeah, just like Rob said, so many different guys. Boston can't take away everything. And as far as play against guys, if I have to maybe think about one, I'll think about one maybe nobody's thinking about, or I'll try. And that would have to be, Miami plays the zone, right? And occasionally we see Bam up top, and that's affecting his rebounds. And where are the rebounds going? We're seeing Tyler Hero rebounding pretty good, so I would look towards his rebound prop going over.
Yeah, Hero had 9 rebounds in Game 2. He almost had a triple-double in Game 1, obviously. One thing that you do wonder if they make some adjustments here with some of these guys playing above levels, but it'll be interesting to see. So, once again, that's Saturday night's Game 3, Eastern Conference Finals. So we just talked about Game 3 before we've even talked about a Game 1 in the West. That's just how the NBA does it. They're hustling to get the East done, although the Lakers series very well might end before this series ends the way things are going if they come to play. Let's talk about that in a moment. But first, I want to go around and find out what everyone's got going on at WagerTalk.com tonight on Friday. Teddy, you're also at SportsMemo.com. What you got going for Friday, Teddy? And the weekend.
Action on the Lakers and the Nuggets tonight. I got a play in the side available right now. And, of course, we're locked and loaded with a full football weekend. 3 plays Saturday, 3 more on Sunday, including 5%ers in both NFL and college. So looking for a big weekend. At both SportsMemo and WagerTalk.com.
And once again, there's free plays there as well. We all put up a lot of free plays, so be sure to check out WagerTalk and SportsMemo.com for free plays and best bets. Rob Vino, you, of course, are at WagerTalk.com. What you got going for Friday and this weekend?
Well, $11 Thursday was going along just fine.
What do you have?
Sales on top of sales, and then Baylor and Houston got postponed today. So that would have been, I had to play on that game, so that one comes down. But college football, we're going to come with a 5%er later on this afternoon in college football. I already have one up, and then the NFL will be up there as well. But like Teddy, I'm involved tonight in Game 1, Lakers-Denver, a 4% best bet. It's up and available right now, WagerTalk.com.
So, Tony Finn, does Rob Vino keep the baton with a push? Does that count as a push? Or it's
Absolutely,
no
he keeps it. He
it's
absolutely
not a
keeps it.
I didn't know if you had to win.
It's written. It's written in Flintstone stone, and that is that you only have to give up what you have if you lose.
If you lose,
you got to lose. You got to lose. You know, you kiss your sister a couple times. I'm sure if you kiss his sister 10 times, we're gonna say, listen, that's enough of that crap. You're done. You're gone. So
Rob Vino.
That's Teddy. Teddy's the ball. Teddy knows. He knows everything that goes on. He didn't tell us, but he knows.
So Rob,
yeah, I know, but I tuned you out, Tony. What were you talking about?
Get in line. You're not the only one.
Rob, remind us next week, though. You will be $11 Thursday once again, though, so make sure you remember.
I mean, it hasn't been verified yet, but I would think so. Like I say, there's not much you can do with this coronavirus pandemic going on. We see 5 college football games again this week, postponed. So it's just going to be a weekly occurrence.
Yeah, and by the way, viewers, if you missed Monday's show, there were no NBA games, but we did a show on Monday. It's actually a pretty good show. At the end there, we talk about some college football, but also big picture stuff about, playing these games early, getting the best line. Somebody asked, what about cancellations? And we all kind of agreed you can't necessarily control that for the most part. It's going to probably work for you and against you, but you just handicap these and still want to get in early. So those of you that are waiting until 5 minutes before kickoff every Saturday to play these games because they might get canceled, you're losing out probably on some real line value over the course of the season. I'd recommend getting a direct subscription. Tony, I know you've been fantastic in all sports over the past year plus.
I suggest you play the 3-way line. That way, if they cancel the game,
I've been trying to find that, Tony. I told you they voided all my 3-way wagers a few weeks ago on that Wednesday night. Otherwise, I'd be on my island hosting the show right now. I had 1,000 to 1. All the NBA games would be a push, and thought I was sitting pretty, and the 3-way lines got voided. But Tony, what do you got for Friday and this weekend? He's got so much, he's speechless. The new headset is definitely confusing Tony Finn. You're muted, Tony. You've hit a button or unplugged something since you last spoke.
Wow.
There,
everybody's smiling because they couldn't hear me.
I think the dog
I heard that. I like
it. We got you. Now, what you got for Friday and this weekend?
Okay, I'm not loaded for bear like Teddy is, but I do have my college up. Well, I did have my college up. My 3 games are now down to, in the last 2 hours, are down to 2 games, or 1 game. But I do have 2. Baseball up tonight. I do have my 5%er still alive and well in college, and my 5%er is alive and well in the NFL. That's the only game I have up for the NFL. I will have my card up this afternoon, and I'm looking for, like Teddy said, we're looking for a big weekend. This is an important weekend. Week 2 is always the most important weekend until week 3.
Ski Prophet. I'm speechless. He's leaving me speechless for the first time all season. Ski, I'll throw it to you. Any WNBA action coming up?
Well, WNBA resumes on the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, so I'll be in action for that. They don't post the lines in advance. They post them the morning of, so I have to wait. But I do have my NFL up for the weekend.
Nice, and that's WagerTalk.com, of course. And once again, some free plays also, WagerTalk and SportsMemo.com. Multiple cappers to choose from. First time in history, guys, that we have football, baseball, basketball, hockey all going in the month of September. So it's not a bad idea to consider a direct all-source sports subscription. I saw a lot of traction last week, by the way, on my 3-day packages on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Not a bad strategy to probably get a 3-day pass on like a Friday or a Saturday and get that Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Saturday, Sunday, Monday combo. Makes a lot of sense, and definitely saw some people doing that, Teddy.
Yeah, I just want to bring up some comments before we get on the Lakers and Nuggets. Which I know we're going to spend the rest of the show, but there was a bunch of good comments in the chat that I wanted to get to. QQQ Wilson talking about they've been under house arrest in the bubble for 3 months. It'll mess up anybody. I agree with that 100%.
Me too.
Jamal Madison saying you've got to give Eric Spoelstra credit the way they were playing on both sides of the ball. And this is interesting. When you talk about Spoelstra versus Brad Stevens, they kind of came into the playoffs on the same level, and we can't look at them at the same level anymore. Even if Boston – I should say, if Boston comes back to win the series, maybe. But Spoelstra's making adjustments in a way that Stevens hasn't.
Hey, Teddy, Spoelstra is a Hall of Fame. He's a Hall of Famer in my mind already. He's there. No one he does. Don't you agree?
Hall of Famer. Really? I mean, I
Yes,
like
he is.
Spoelstra, but that's a pretty big statement. What do you think, Teddy?
And,
Well, one is I think that he certainly has that potential, but two is that he's a film junkie. And when you're sitting in a bubble with nothing to do
agreed.
for days on end,
Yeah,
the
I
film
like that.
junkie coaches, that's where Spoelstra got his start. He was cutting video for the Heat when he was like 21 years old, literally.
Pat Riley days, right?
And he got promoted and got promoted and got promoted, and this is where he's at right now. But in the bubble where there aren't all right, we're going to play here, and then we're going to go back and play over there. We don't have these natural splits where this is what we're doing, and now we're going to do something else in a different place. Coaching's been everything. That's why Denver's here. That's why Miami's here, and that's why certainly the Heat are live moving forward, and we'll discuss whether the Nuggets are live.
And note, Pat Riley at 75 is kicking Danny Ainge's ass at 61. Just so you know.
Teddy made me a little sad. I think he named every coach except the Lakers coach.
Vogel?
Is Vogel Hall of Famer if he gets the title this year, Ski?
No.
By the way, the adjusted series price now, guys, Celtics are minus 130 after the start of the series. They were the Heat was minus 160 after going into game 2. They're now minus 320. So that's about a 74% chance that they make the finals. And they'll be the dog, obviously, against the Lakers most likely. But Spoelstra's he's got a good chance of winning the title now. He's got a 74% chance of being in the finals. Tony, if he beats the Lakers and wins the title, I would very well probably put him above the bubble for Hall of Fame and my credentials as well. So you might not be wrong there. It's something I hadn't really thought much about.
And everyone has to admit that this team, when the big three were in Miami,
it's easy to win then. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. This would be an accomplishment in my eyes. I'm telling you, they're playing well, but he's already there in my mind. Is what he's done.
No question. If he can win the title with this team, I would definitely elevate him to that level because you're exactly right. Much more impressive to do it here. It's a good segue into the game tonight, Teddy. Vogel obviously doesn't get much credit for anything, including from me. LeBron, I always feel, is the coach of these teams. But what's your take on this game one, Teddy? I mean, big picture stuff. I know you're involved. So look at the side, the total, whatever you want to talk about here.
Well, it all starts with the narrative surrounding the LA Clippers. And I'm very interested in your guys' takes on this because everything I'm reading is that the LA Clippers blew the series. The Clippers bad. Clippers bad. Clippers bad. I'm not hearing a whole lot of Nuggets good. Yeah. And in watching those games, when Denver rallied back, much like when Miami rallied back last night, when Denver rallied back in consecutive games, it wasn't necessarily Clippers good or bad. It was Denver good on both ends of the court. And I mean really good. Particularly, again, the defensive statistics for both Miami and Denver, full season, they're going to lie. They're not going to tell you what those teams are playing defense right now. And defensively, the Nuggets were able to take Denver take LA out of everything that they wanted to do. Now it's a vastly different matchup this time around. But Denver has the superstar in Jokic. They have the scorer in Murray. They have the defensive stopper in Harris. They've got role players up and down the roster. They deserve to be here. The Lakers have lost game one each of the last two series. I think you know where I'm heading.
Yeah, and that's the big takeaway question for me, Rob Vino, is, which Laker team shows up? Is it the one that finished Houston off 4 straight after losing game one, or is, as Teddy said, the Laker team that's lost game one of both series so far? Now they have a long layoff. I think it's tricky to try to decide which way this layoff affects the Lakers. Or what's your take, Rob?
Yeah, again, trying to make any definitive statement on which way it will affect them. Those things are all, like I said the other day, 20/20 hindsight. But Ski's pointed it out multiple times. Laker guy that he is, that game one have been very, very slow for the LA Lakers, and maybe the history in this year's playoffs bear that out. So maybe they start out slow here again. I like what Teddy said, but you know what? National media, when a favorite and a prohibitive favorite like the LA Clippers were, when they go down, it's always that team blew it. It's never the underdog won it. And so that's what you expect to read. That's what you expect to see. While it may not be the truth, or the entire truth. It's what you expect to see. And I'm sure Denver appreciates that, because teams like this want to sneak up on people and continue to sneak up on people. They want to continue to get no credit and just play hard and take teams by surprise. Teddy, I'm disappointed you didn't mention Paul Millsap as being a clutch part of the team. But, there was a game in that series where Paul Millsap was a clutch piece to a victory in that game. So, all year long, we've talked about Denver depth. And, a lot of times when you start to handicap these series, you have to go back a little bit, because you hate to get caught up entirely in the now. And to start the season, Denver, when they were together, was a really good defensive group. But injury affected them along the way quite a bit, starting with our favorite defender, Gary Harris. When he's not available, and when he wasn't available during the series, all of a sudden they turned into an offensive-minded team and played a lot less defense. With Harris back, it's come full circle. So I think Denver's playing more to their true identity at this point in time. As Teddy said, when you face LeBron and Anthony Davis, that's a totally different matchup. I don't know where the answers are, and I'm really interested in that center matchup. Davis and Jokic, can Jokic have big games against AD in this series? That'll be interesting to see. I think LA will try and take advantage of his defense. I think they'll try again and take advantage of Michael Porter's defense. But Denver's got such a deep roster, guys, that I don't think they can be counted out. Game one specifically, I always feel is played looser than any other game. It's almost a feeling out process, very loose, and then we learn some things, and then we start to tighten things up. From that perspective, I would expect both of these teams to score a little bit tonight, as they did in game one of the Miami-Boston series. So those are just some general thoughts on what we have here for game one. The series overall, while LA should win, I don't know that it will be as easy as maybe some of the national media would make you think it's going to be.
Yeah, and by the way, just some big picture stuff here as I throw it to you, Tony. Game one line here at the Friday afternoon. Lakers 7-point favorite, total 210. First half, 4.5, 108. So that makes the second half line 2.5, 102. So obviously not looking for a lot of close contested fouls down the stretch. Money line for the game is a 7-point favorite, minus 290, 280, 290 range, even minus 300. Vegas even higher in the 330 ranges with all that public California money coming in for the weekend, I assume. And then series price is interesting, guys. The bettable look-ahead line at one of the sharpest offshore books before Game 7 the other night was minus 270, take back plus 210. We talked about it here on the show. I thought it looked low, but now it's minus 600 plus 450. Just incredible that it could be off by that much. Yeah, I think this line probably a little inflated, but then again, doesn't matter if the Lakers win, they win. Tony, just some of your thoughts on all that and game one in general.
Well, I think everybody agree with this, and that is this Denver team is not the Houston Rockets. So this is a completely different kind of series than you're going to see with the Lakers. I believe where Teddy went, I would veer off that track a little bit, and I would say that I don't think the Lakers are going to make the same mistakes they've made in the first two games of those game ones for a couple reasons. One is, it's also been mentioned here. Somebody just said it, and I apologize, and that is that the Lakers have a tendency, especially LeBron, they have a tendency to come out in game one and just kind of get the feel of things and really play very relaxed and play very loose and seemingly uncaring, just seemingly, obviously. I expect them. Listen, I expect balls to the effing walls. Lakers do not. They're going to do whatever they have to do to win this game. I'm not saying they wouldn't do it normally, but I think in normal circumstances, LeBron, and if he had a third option, it would be a little different. This game comes down to, first off, I don't know if you guys looked at the box score. I kind of was doing some work yesterday, and Murray, when he's averaging 33 points a game when he shoots 8 or more 3-pointers. And it's kind of strange. I see that when he's Celeste, he's averaging about 18 points. So in my mind is this. This is a 2-on-2 game. First off, Anthony Davis is not going to be guarding Jokic. Both coaches They want these guys scoring points. They don't want them fouling out. Okay, I don't. Every once in a while, you may see that. I don't anticipate that at all. And it's really that's the series in my eyes. Is Anthony Davis going to be better than Jokic, or is he going to be better than AD? Because I already know LeBron's going to be better than Murray. I don't care what you say. I already know that. So that's what this series comes down to. You can talk to me about the benches. You can talk to me about the supporting cast. You can talk to me about all that stuff. But you're going to see those four guys play 40 minutes each game probably. And I'm not going to anticipate any rest, any load management. This is Jokic against AD. Who's tougher? Who's better? Who can come up with the points? Who can come up with the shot when they need to? Who can come up with the block? Who's going to be better? I have my opinion on it, but I'll let somebody else talk.
Well, I definitely want to get yours, Ski. I'm going to let you run with it. You're our LA Laker guy. What are your thoughts here heading into Game 1 in this series overall, Ski?
Well, I'll just stick to first of all, what Tony said, and I agree completely. It's a 2-on-2 series. If you look at when they played this year, I mean, LeBron and AD had about 30 a game each. And it's going to have to be Jamal Murray and Jokic. Jamal Murray is the biggest mismatch for the Lakers, although Lakers have been okay versus guards with Lillard and McCollum and Harden in the previous playoff series. And I want to talk about also, we're talking about game ones, but it's not just game ones. All season long, when the Lakers have had 3 or more days rest, they're 1-5 against the spread. So, I mean, you could look at that. You could look at LeBron in general in game ones. He's 27-20 overall, but
wow.
In series, like, he swept a lot of teams in the first round, and when he's not sweeping them, he usually loses that first game. So I just think
that's a hell of a stat, actually. 27-20 straight up.
Yeah,
that's surprising to me because he's been on some mediocre teams, but mostly pretty good teams. So that's interesting. Yeah,
and so I agree. I don't know who said it, but they said it's a fill-out process. I agree. I think that's kind of how they approach the game. But the only thing I'll say is, I mean, if you want to put something to it, maybe they're more motivated just because the Clippers are out to go get things done. Or maybe they're more motivated because LeBron didn't win MVP. That's all I can look at. But besides that, I'm not looking the Lakers' way to back them in game 1.
Yeah, and Teddy, one thing that's interesting is obviously they've had some time off, but they didn't necessarily know they're going to play. But you almost got to assume they were prepping for the Clippers most of last week and early in the week. So my gut feeling is they probably have had even less prep time for the Nuggets other than maybe a day or so. So what are your thoughts on the long layoff in general, Teddy? Any way to handicap that?
So, I mean, the only way you have to handicap it is look at past performance, and say this is what this team has done in these type of roles in the past. And the Lakers, as Hakeem was talking about, have not performed particularly well in game ones, and LeBron himself has not been a bet-on guy early in the series. But in terms of getting info out of the bubble about how much time the Lakers have been approaching Denver, I mean, look, they're NBA teams. It's not like they haven't been watching the series. It's not like the coaching staff can't sit down and crank video all night. And normally, it's not unusual to see we have one practice against the opponent before you play that team. So I don't think if I'm betting against the Lakers tonight, it's not because I think that LA won't be prepared for Denver. They'll be prepared. I just think that Denver, can remain something of an undervalued commodity in the markets, much like Miami has.
Yeah, and Rob, as I mentioned earlier, I'll get all of your thoughts when we go back around, but the look-ahead line, and obviously it was a bad look-ahead line, but it was a bettable line at a very reputable Sharp Offshore book earlier this week, was minus 270, take back plus 210. Remember, I'd referenced the Lakers are going to be like minus 130 over the Clippers. I think it probably would have been higher now in hindsight, but minus 600 for the series, plus 450 Denver. Rob, does that seem a little high to you, or is that what you're expecting for it to come?
Well, they probably have to have it there to attract Denver money, Steve. I mean, we're talking about a 7-game series where a lot of things have to go right for Denver to pull off series victory. They can pull off 1 or 2 games, but when push comes to shove, seeing them win the series, odds makers have to put it at that type of price to get any sort of Denver money. So whether we handicap it as individuals as right or wrong or overinflated, undervalued, whatever, I think that's just their job to get it to where they can get some money on the return side, because let's face it, everybody's going to come in on the Lakers. Interesting note here fundamentally, guys. Last series, we saw Los Angeles go totally away from JaVale McGee at center and have Anthony Davis because they wanted to play small against Houston, matches up better. Back comes JaVale McGee to the starting lineup, at least as far as I'm concerned. I would believe he'd be back in there to defend Jokic, like Tony said, so that AD doesn't have to do that job. And it's just, the way these teams match up, it's probably better to have McGee get in there and play 17, 18 minutes at the center position. So it might be a little different personnel-wise for these teams. And again, my thought is that generally speaking, when I head into these game ones, I always consider them to be feeling out processes where things are a lot looser. And I don't expect anything different here in this particular series. We'll see how it goes in game one, and we can go from there. But Mike Malone's done a terrific job coaching this team so far. And to the point of, maybe practicing for the Clips and not expecting the Nuggets, I probably don't put any weight into that at all because, these players know who's on the other team. They all know the matchups. They've played Denver before. It's a Western Conference team. So I think they'll be just fine with preparation as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, Tony, what are your other thoughts on this series? Anything on the layoff or player play on against guys? Just general thoughts?
Well, I wanted to comment about the McGee, Rob mentioned. I know I said that I don't think Davis is going to be guarding Jokic. I don't think he will be. I think that there's going to be and I've had guys that I really respect, guys that I talk to before every NBA game and a lot of college, at least the Power Six, and they disagree. I still think that the Lakers are going to do some things differently. I think they're going to blitz Murray every once in a while because they, as Rob said, as these guys all said, that's a little bit of a mismatch for the Lakers. I think you're going to see disruption. I think LA is going to do things differently. And as far as McGee goes, McGee has to play a little bit. He's kind of been what's his name? But they were absent in the small ball against Houston. This is going to be fun as hell. It really is because this is so different than what we saw with LA and Houston. It's just completely different. A different chess game, a different chessboard, different chess players, and I'm going to have fun with it. I don't know about you guys. I'm going to enjoy it.
Ski, any other thoughts?
I agree that that's what they should do because that's what we've seen them do to Harden and to Lillard. Yeah. But I'm not quite sure they start off the game like that in game one. I think they, like you said, it's the fill-out process. With Denver is throwing at them and then make adjustments from there. And, the main thing that I'm looking at in the series in general, the main mismatch or main thing I like for Los Angeles is Denver sucks on pick-and-roll defense. And I can see LeBron and Anthony Davis eating it up all game long. So that's what I'm looking at for LA, plus positives for LA. I think LeBron, in the 3 games he played Denver this year, he averaged about a little bit over 11 assists per game. His assist total is at 8.5 at plus money. I think that's a good look.
Yeah, and I was going to say, Ski, how would you like to play those? Obviously, points over for both would make sense, but assist over is an interesting one as well because he's more likely to be feeding AD, I guess, than the other way around.
Is it fair? I apologize. I've been talking too much, but is it fair to say that you guys would agree with this? And that is McGee and Howard. They just clog up the middle of this LA offense, and they make that offense ugly, stagnant, and half court useless. Is that why? Do you agree with that, Ski?
I agree. The offense is worse, but versus different teams, it makes us a lot better defensively.
Well, this team, we're talking about Denver right now. So
versus this team, I think it definitely hinders the offense, but this is the team where it's going to help us a lot more on defense.
Maybe right. Okay.
By the way, seeing James props and Anthony Davis point props both around 27.5. Davis, I did see a 26.5 at one of the DraftKings spots, but it was juiced heavier. So 27.5 looking like the true number for over-under points. Teddy, what are your thoughts here? That pick and roll makes a lot of sense, especially in game one before maybe we see some adjustments in the line.
So I want to talk about the series price.
Sure. Yeah. I wanted to ask you about that offshore number that we saw the other day as well.
Well, it's, again, when one book posts, it's not a mature market.
Right.
When the books post and the bettors have bet into it, then it's a mature market. We've got that now. And it reminds me a little bit, the series that is in my head on this is Lakers Pistons back in 2004, when it was a very comparable price. I think LA was a 5.5 to 1 favorite, just like they are now. And
they were that big of a favorite.
It's the Lakers. I'm like, yeah, well, look at the other team. They're pretty good.
That was, just to remind the viewers, Teddy, that was the Rip Hamilton, Wallace, Chauncey Billups. I think there were 4 All-Stars from that Pistons squad. We talked about that. That might have been the one non-Hall of Fame team ever in recent memory where they're not going to have a Hall of Famer, although they might. Hamilton, maybe.
Don't remember.
But, Chauncey gets there in my book.
Teddy, the Pistons were that big of a dog, though? I mean, obviously,
they were
2020 because they won the series. Wow.
They were +8 game 1 and +8 game 2.
Wow.
So, here, if you think the Nuggets are live, I think there's something of an overlay in the price because it's the Lakers. And when you look at the money line on a game-in, game-out basis, look, the spread's going to be 7. They'll adjust off the 7, but that's where it is. So that equates to what, a +230, a +240, a +220, depending on how you shop around on your money line. I don't anticipate. If the Lakers kill them, we'll see a 7 next game. If the Nuggets win, maybe we'll see a 7.5 or an 8 the next game. So I don't anticipate that that the point spread is going to be all that different. And in this instance, the point spread in the series price, there's a little bit of an overlay when you look at it.
Yeah, one thing I'll say quickly about that offshore line, the public, obviously, as Rob said, they have to inflate this number for the series. You're going to get a lot of California, LA money coming into Vegas. Offshore, people are going to see the Lakers or just not play it. That offshore that had the -270, obviously that was a cheap number in hindsight, but you got to almost wonder if that's what they felt their pure power ratings were. And they're a pretty smart book. I've followed them for decades now. So it just shows that this line is inflated at -600. I'm not saying 270 is the accurate price either, but there's definitely an overlay here at this point. I guess the question becomes, though, when it's -600 plus 450, there's 150 cents of juice in there. Is there still value at plus 450? But I think there's no doubt that -600 is a bit steep. Rob, let me get your thoughts on this series a little deeper on some play-on-play against guys. Maybe I like where Ski was going with the pick-and-roll stuff with Anthony Davis and LeBron. It seems kind of simple, yet it doesn't appear that the Nuggets are going to be able to stop that combo.
Yeah, I said it earlier. They're going to pick on Jokic's defense, and they're going to pick on Porter's defense. I mean, we've seen Jokic exposed in pick and roll. Utah destroyed him. So no reason to think that Los Angeles won't do the same thing. And I like what Ski said about Jamal Murray. I mean, Jamal Murray really doesn't have there's not a real good matchup for him on the other side. I think as far as game and coaching is concerned, I think it's way more important for Denver to push pace in this series. You don't want to have to try and score against LA's set half-court defense, even though they just defeated the Clippers' half-court defense, which is extremely good. They got out and moved a little bit more, running up and down the floor. So I think that's key to Denver. We always talk about LA having to push or being better when they push, and they are. But maybe with the forward matchups here of Davis and James against Millsap and Grant, I mean, they can live in the half court a little better than what Denver can. And to the point Tony mentioned, Howard and McGee, it is 12 extra fouls that they have to give if they want to kind of make a point and discourage Jokic. I don't know if you can discourage him. He's such a big guy, but certainly they can run out there and hammer him a little bit with those 12 fouls.
And Tony, what's your thought on Rondo in this series? QQ Wilson says, give Rondo and Braun the ball and get out of the way. I think he meant the way, the why, but the way.
Playoff Rondo is not a myth. It's a real thing, I think. That's what I got. So, am I wrong? Am I wrong? Playoff Rondo, listen, what he's done, it's smart kind of thing. It's smart shot. Smart's not a good shooter. It's a 37% career shooter, guys. And we're seeing some of this crap that's going on now with Boston. Rondo? Playoff Rondo's real.
So, Tony, 9.5 points for Rondo, 5.5 over -150 on his assists. So basically 6.5 assists. and then 3.5 to the over on the rebounds. So
Whatever
you like
Ski
any of
thinks
those?
is going to win, I know I want the other side because it always wins. So I'll
Well,
take it.
that's where I was heading, Ski. That's a good way for us to finish this off on this game here as we wrap things up, Ski. Give me some play against. Well, you mentioned Davis and LeBron already, so we know where you are with those guys. But throw some props at Tony Finn for some weekend in-show wagers here.
I like Rondo's assist. I saw it at 5.5. It's up to 6.5.
Well, no, it's 5.5 over 50. So
Yeah, that's
I'm
6.
saying the true number is probably 6.5. But yeah, it's over 5.5 with the heavy juice. So you say 6.
let Tony-
You want to say 6?
Oh
as a fair number there?
no! I'm the dealer. You play first.
We'll say Rondo's
Okay.
assist Ski is 6. We'll make that the flat number. So
Okay.
you'd have to get to 7, so it's a little tricky. But you still like over 6?
Yeah, I'll take that.
Tony, you want under 6 Rondo assist, even though you like Rondo?
You guys should take it too. Call as soon as the show's over. Book it. Go play it. Go play it.
He's singing Rondo's praises, yet now he wants to take the other side.
Well, yeah. Well, yeah. I can jinx a leprechaun too. I guarantee I can.
Tony, I'll let you throw one at the panel, not just Ski.
Okay.
Anybody else? Rob, Teddy, anybody wants to take it? What's a prop you like or a play against guy for you, Tony?
Well, I want to know what's Murray. I want to know right now Murray's props.
Yeah, Murray.
Everything.
Yeah, I'm seeing him at 4.5 for the assists for
Okay.
rebounds. I'm sorry, that's rebounds. Murray's assist is 5.5 heavy juice again, so 6. We'll say 6 for the assist. Yeah, and then Ski, what is it, about 24.5 probably for points? That's what he's been
Yes.
at. Yeah, 24.5 flat. So 24.5
Well,
points, 6 assists.
Okay. Is anybody? I don't know how. If you like it, listen. I think this Denver team is live. It doesn't mean I think they're going to win. I'm not going to say anything about that. But I'll say this: if you like Denver in any way, shape, or form, you have to like over 24. I mean, you do. I mean, if he's going to take 8 shots from the perimeter, it's shown in this series in the bubble that's where he's comfortable. He's averaging 33, scored 41 game. He had a few 21s, I think, and a 23. If you look him up, I'm not going to mess with my hands and my keyboard. I'm talking, and that's what I like. Over, and over. All of those 3.
Does anybody want under 24.5 points in Jamal Murray?
Be smart, guys.
I'll give it to him. I'll give it to him just because he gives me everything.
Yeah.
Ski reluctantly will take under 24.5, even though he disagrees with it.
My work is done.
And let me see. What was the last thing I was going to ask you? Oh, one of the chat questions I wanted to get to before we sign off here. Ski, I'll throw this one to you because you're the Laker guy. AD over 1.5 3-pointers. Now I know you don't want to see that happen as a Laker fan, but do you think it'll happen as a bettor?
Actually, I don't mind it happening in this series. It's just with such an advantage versus Houston, you better just get down low. But in this series, Denver's a lot bigger, so you may see him out there, especially with JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard in the paint. I could see it happening.
And it could lead
Denver
to some
have a
more
guy?
pick and rolls.
Sorry, guys, I got to run. I got another
Teddy, I was
spot.
going to ask you if you had a
Teddy,
4 Eastern show,
great to
buddy.
see
Have
you.
a great weekend.
You too, buddy.
Good luck.
Take
And
care,
we'll talk to you guys,
Tuesday.
next week.
Thanks, Teddy.
Thank you, bud.
Teddy covers.
Does Denver have somebody over 6'8"? Yes. So they're bigger than Houston, right?
Hey, guys, I know Teddy had to run, so that's why I was trying to wrap up. But since we got a little extra time here, Anthony actually asked about the total. We didn't really touch on the total too much, guys, at 210. I'll just go around, and I'll start with you, Rob. Just thoughts on the total in general. You do great work, I know, with NBA over-unders.
Yeah, and I'll reiterate what I said. The general line of thinking, Steve, is that these games are played looser. They tighten up as series go along. And if you're going to take advantage of a number, this 210 number looks a little bit small for these two teams and their capabilities offensively, especially since we've just rattled off, 3 matchups that we think really work offensively for these teams. We think LeBron works, we think Anthony Davis works, and we think Jamal Murray works. So 210 in the regular season, you wouldn't have seen 210 on this game. You'd have seen 228. 229. So there's inherent value right there. This is the playoffs. It's not regular season, but I think maybe it started too low for this particular series because if this were Game 4, Game 5, and teams were digging in and they were entrenched and they've seen everything they're going to run against each other, I'd have a different opinion. But for a Game 1, I think probably over is the right way to be here.
Yeah, and Tony, it sounds crazy when you hear Rob say, it's an adjustment of maybe 20 points from what a regular season game would be, but Nuggets 13-1 to the over going into the bubble in the playoffs. They have not gone over in their past 8 or 10 games. I think they're 0-8-2. I think it's the last 10 It's incredible, Tony.
Yeah, and to everyone, everything that you guys have talked about tonight, I think has been to some degree. I agree with it, and even when they conflict at times, and that's this and that. I think the Lakers were on cruise. I think late in that series. I don't know if you guys would agree, but even the last 2 games, the 2 games that they won to seal the deal, I thought they were feeling that out too. I thought they were almost on load management in those 2 offensively. But one thing that they were never on load management, never lazy about, and that is playing defense. I thought the Lakers defense was over the effing top against this Houston team. And if you believe that's what they're going to focus on too tonight, as much as I still think you're going to see them play some small ball. I think they're going to try to play some small yogis, and I think they might try to get out and get in transition. There's nobody better in transition in basketball. LeBron at full speed no one is better in transition. Get in his way, and you're gonna be in a hospital for a while, and that's the bottom line. So that's what they do, and they confuse, they blitz. You see, I have this whole game already played out, and if I'm Vogel, I know exactly what I'm going to do. I know exactly how I'm going to attack Denver, and I think it works. And I think the Lakers. If I have a team total, what do you have a team totals for the Lakers? That's what I want to know as far as team totals for the Lakers, because that's really I'm only interested in that. I want to know what the team total is.
I would make it 108.5, 101.5, right, guys? Yeah, so that's what it would be. It's 7 and 210, so it'd be 108.5 to 101.5 would be the projected final. That'd be 210, 7 points.
We talked about everyone. We all talked about how well Denver defended the Clippers. But it wasn't 2 weeks ago we were saying this Denver defense can't stop. They suck. I mean, Utah, who's a pedestrian offensively, is eating them up and picking on Porter and doing all the things that you should do against Denver. The blueprint is there to beat Denver. Can LA execute it? Because we know they have the 2 best players on the court, in my opinion.
Yeah, and Ski, I'll get your final thoughts on the total here. As I mentioned, Nuggets start the bubble into the playoffs, 13-1 overrun, a couple overtimes there, but still 13-1 to the over. And then, as you and I know, because we were both involved with that Game 7, they crashed to the under by like 60 points against the Jazz. They have not gone over in any of their last 8 games. There's been a couple pushes, depending on your number, maybe you got one here or there. They've been some tight numbers, but still no clear-cut over winners in the last 8 games now, Ski. Really a remarkable turn of fortune here and change of game plan. I don't know what you want to say for the Nuggets.
Yeah, and somebody mentioned it. I mean, since Gary Harris has been here, it's been under City, and that's what we've seen just going back a couple of years whenever he's in the lineup. As far as what Tony Finn said, as far as small ball, I think we see it more with the bench. Like when Rondo's in the game and LeBron is out, then you can put Morris, you can put Kuzma, and I think that lineup is pretty good.
They've been pretty good.
Right. This total, I agree with Rob that as the series goes on, I think we'll see more defense. That's one of the reasons I could maybe see it going over. But in general, just looking at it, I'll say Denver prefers to play slow. They're pretty efficient on offense, but I would say they prefer to play slow. And I think the Lakers, I mean, they're a better team when they get out and run, but that starts with defense. And it's a tough call for me. Probably game 1, it could sneak over that number, but as the series goes on, I'll probably look towards unders.
And one last question, guys, here from QQ, and we'll leave it with this one. Just real quick, if you have a thought, Rob, if it's a blowout here, he says he likes Denver if the Lakers are up big. Do you see any edge one way or the other how that might play out? I know, Tony, you're a huge in-game guy. Actually, I'll throw it to you, Tony. I know you're a big in-game guy.
I'll say no, because this is a team that just went 7 games. Right? They just went 7 hard-fought games. Don't say they weren't, because when you're playing the Clippers and and as poorly as they played, it's draining. And if they're down 15, Malone's no dummy. If he wants to compete in game 2, 3, 4, then if they're down 15 and 1 in the fourth quarter, I'm on the Lakers, not on Denver.
Rob, would you agree with that?
I wouldn't disagree, but the counter to that would be Denver's been behind double digits quite a few times in the playoffs and rallied back to either win or lose closely. So it's a team that has some resiliency and some fight. Steve, I want to go back to what you said about Denver being under the last 8 games, right? But again, I brought this point up the other day. I'll make it one more time. As handicappers and as bettors that the four of us are, we're betting numbers. We're not betting words. Under's cute to say, but when the total here is 210 tonight, of those, the last 7 games that Denver's gone under, 4 of those would have gone over this number tonight, 210. There would have been 4 overs, and one of those games hit 209.
Wow.
So while saying 0-8 under is a nice trend to bring up, you always have to apply the number given to you to that. And Denver's found a way 4 times out of the last 7 to get over this number of 210. So unless you think LA's defense, the Lakers, is so significantly better than the Clippers that, Denver can't get near that, then I don't know. The adjustments here have been so expansive, Steve. There have been such big adjustments in these totals that maybe, at some point there's got to be take back, right? And I think right now at 210 is probably a good spot for take back.
Yeah, and that's exactly why I pointed out that stat, because so I'm glad you clarified that, because I want the viewers to realize the reason I was pointing out they haven't gone over in the last 8 is that's why the line is, as you said, maybe 10, 20 points lower than it would be a few months ago. And that's exactly why you look at those kind of stats. You don't play the under or the over because they're 0-6 and 2 to the under, but you definitely start to realize that that's being factored into the line. And that's the point you were making here by this being 10, 15, 20 points, maybe less than what it would be in a regular season, less playoff intense game. Ski, final thoughts as we head out here for the weekend. Your LA Lakers feeling good about tonight?
I'm going to watch it. I'm going to see what happens, but no, I'm not particularly feeling too good about the Lakers in game 1.
If they lose outright, Ski, do you like them a lot in game 2 on Sunday, since we won't be back on the air before then?
I definitely do. They're going to have the Hollywood Nights jerseys on. They're going to be having that Kobe spirit and bounce back.
So other than being a Laker fan, as a betting fan, you might want to be rooting for an outright loss tonight, because it might set up a really good play in game 2, but I know Ski doesn't want to see that outright loss. Ski, a 1-2 point ugly win, would that be enough to have them extra focused in game 2?
Any kind of loss, they would be extra focused. So
no, but I'm saying if they pulled off like a 1 point win where you still get the 1-0 series lead, but they don't play well, would that keep them focused enough for you to pull the trigger still? And Tony,
that would depend on how much money LeBron has on the game. Because if he's not covering, he's going to be pissed.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I definitely think the Lakers are going to cruise in this series. I don't think the Nuggets win more than 1 game.
What do you think, Rob?
You know what? I meant to ask this, Ski, for yesterday's game, but I was muted at the end or whatever. My own fault. But how about this? Tonight's referee crew, we have Scott Foster and Tony Brothers on the same crew. Now, these 2 guys, do they hate anybody more on either side of the coin here, LA or Denver? Who are we looking to get the foul calls here tonight with these 2 guys?
I'll tell you all seriousness, guys, after watching last night's game, I am starting to try to figure out how to handicap that more on a daily basis, because these refs can make a difference.
Yeah, I don't think it's anything too major with those guys tonight, but they are tricky, though. They'll turn the game over quick, depending on what they want to happen.
Yeah, Foster's a shady guy to begin with. He was mentioned in Donahue's book and everything else, so we know Foster's got propensity to do some crazy things. But until you had said it on one of those shows, Guy, I didn't realize that Tony Brothers had some, animosity towards certain teams and players. So that's
put some stripes on me, and I'll make you guys rich.
I feel like in that one book, the Jeff Donahue or whatever, he said that they assign referees to games according to what they want to happen. So,
yeah, I tongue in cheek for the last 20-some years, and Tony, you'll appreciate. Gabe Morency and I always joke about the conspiracy theories and stuff. But I'll tell you, I'm not sure I am joking as much as I think I am when I say that stuff sometimes. The league doesn't want to sweep. They want the Lakers in the finals. I mean, there's no doubt.
They want the Lakers and
Miami.
Celtics.
They can live with the Miami rematch against LeBron. They probably prefer Boston, but they can live with it. Yeah. But the Nuggets, there's no realm of possibility they want the Nuggets in the final, Ski.
They don't want Denver.
I just remembered, now that Rob brought that up, I'm thinking about it. It's not Scott Foster you have to worry about tonight. It's Tony Brothers. Okay. Tony Brothers, I think he likes the Nuggets.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah. I like the Lakers team total is over tonight, by the way. LeBron's he's not coming out and feeling this out, guys. Trust me, he's not doing it. He's
Anybody
not
want
doing
the
it.
other side of that? Anybody want the under 108.5 against
I'll
Tony?
make it 110.
Wait, what? 110 what?
That's
He's taking over 110.
over
Tony's taking
110.
over Lakers 110. Over their
okay.
team total. Team total.
Yeah.
I'll take under.
I'll take the under also, Tony.
Man,
I think Game 1 Class A teams come out with defense.
cleaning up. I'm cleaning up today.
So we can gang up on Tony. I'm with you, Skeen. I'm taking the good number under 110. That was enough to get me off the sidelines, Tony. I'm taking the value. True line 108. I'll take under 110.
I'm gonna go get me a tequila right now. Is it Saturday? It's Friday, right? Every day is Friday in my world. It's Friday.
You better hope it comes in the mail tomorrow because there's no mail Sunday, Tony. So you'll have to wait till Monday then to get it. So
we own a bar. We go down and get any liquor I want.
Guys, free
They don't
plays
have
at
any good
WagerTalk and Sportsmemo, free football, basketball, baseball plays every day. And then, of course, when you're ready to step up and make some serious money, everybody, the best bets are at WagerTalk.com. We've all got some best bets up for tonight, Friday, and this weekend as well. WagerTalk.com. For Teddy Covers, who was with us, had to run to another show. Rob Vino, Tony Finn, Ski Profit. We set a record, guys, an hour 10 show here. But we have no Saturday, Sunday show, maybe no Monday show. So I felt we had to go a little extra here for the viewers.
I send my overtime invoice. It'll be in.
Yeah. And the check will be in the mail with your bottle that's emailed. And on that note, guys, I'm your host, Steve Merrill. Check out WagerTalk.com all weekend long for NFL, college football, baseball, basketball, hockey, NASCAR, UFC Live, Andy Lang Saturday night. And we'll back hopefully Monday, if not Tuesday, with the next NBA game right here, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific on weekdays, WagerTalk TV. Good luck this weekend.